And I'm going to kind of just get us going here, maybe a little bit of a slow start, because I know the link wasn't working, and I apologize for that mistake. We are in recovery mode, though, from the mistake right now. And what I'm going to do is share with you an agenda document. So give me a second, and then in the Zoom chat, if you could locate the link that I just put in there and click on it for me, that would be super. I know we might be having people join us as we go along. So Katrina, if you want to just kind of continue to put that in there, if you see other people join us and maybe help them understand what we're doing, that'd be super.
No problem.
Thanks. All right, I can see you guys jumping in. This is great. Wonderful, wonderful. If anybody has trouble, let me know. So my name is Avra, and my colleague Katrina and I are here this morning with you. I'm a teacher success champion, and she is a key account manager. And so basically we work together to support our accounts that are using Kami. And so I'm excited to be here with you today. And there is a link in the chat for you to click on. It's going to take you to this green page that has purple writing on it, talks about, kind of has a list of things that we're going to chat about. That I see now has a typo in it too. What the heck? But the biggest thing is that there's a collaborative activity link in there that I would like for you guys to be able to click on. So if you jump into this document, if you can look for the words collaborative activity, okay, it'll give you the option to click, and you'll be able to jump over and be part of another Kami document where we're going to actually do some brainstorming, thinking about ways that we currently differentiate instruction for students. But for those of you that have just joined, good morning. My name is Avra. Welcome to This is Kami with a focus of differentiation. So we're going to talk about Kami, how to use Kami, but then we're also going to talk about, accessibility for students and differentiating our teaching strategies so that way we can meet the needs of all of our learners. So a lot of you are in here already, so that's fantastic. Thank you for jumping in. What we're going to do is brainstorm. To begin with, we're going to brainstorm ways that we currently differentiate instruction for students. So I would love to hear from you, like, what are some things in your classroom that you already do, not necessarily with Kami, but just in general, that you do to differentiate for students. So if you're comfortable doing that and sharing that idea with us, go on over to the text box tool on the left-hand side, and then come on over onto the page and maybe type something that you do that is a successful strategy for differentiation. Awesome. Thank you so much for getting us started. More challenging math problems for sure. So if you were differentiating for me, you would be giving me less challenging math problems, because in the math classroom, I don't excel, but I love that. That's awesome. Leveled readers to the same text. Yeah, and Newsella is fantastic for that, for sure. And then in the chat, Anna's written, provide visual schedules for those that need them. Absolutely. So having that kind of visual representation of, something that's going to happen throughout the day. Small group instruction, fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. So there's no wrong answers here, guys. I mean, don't feel at all any kind of pressure in this environment. I just always like to kind of start by seeing kind of where your minds are. I love the idea of personalized feedback, for sure. Absolutely. So you guys, while we talk about differentiation and while we, are kind of having this conversation, we're also going to talk about Kami. So right now you are all in a collaborative Kami document, okay? And in this environment, for those of you that were here last session, you may hear a little bit of repeat from me, but I want to just mention for those of you that aren't familiar, as familiar with Kami, that right now you are all sharing one document and you're all editors on the document, okay? But what you'll notice is if you put your mouse on top of someone else's text box, okay, and you try to double click inside of it and maybe change their words, or you try to move it around, or maybe you try to delete something that someone else has done on the page, you will find very rapidly that you can't do that in Kami. Because does anyone want to put their mouse on top of someone else's and notice what you do have the option to do though when you put your mouse on top of another person's text box? Anybody want to unmute and tell me, or type it in the chat, or type it on the page? What do you notice that you do have the option for when you put your mouse on top of someone else's text box and kind of click or just hover there? So the option that shows up right there actually is a read aloud option. Okay, so it may look like comment, Rebecca, so thank you for responding. But what you'll notice, guys, is that if you put your mouse on top of anyone else's, you're going to see their initials, and then you're going to see a little microphone tool, and that microphone tool is actually read aloud. So I'm going to click on it.
More challenging math problems.
So I don't know how well you could hear that just since we're in the Zoom, but it is a way for those words to be read to students. So when we think about differentiating for kids, one wonderful thing that you can do for them is allow the read aloud feature in Kami to be a support for students. So we know that students that struggle with reading, we know students that are early readers, we know English learners, for example, are all students who would benefit from hearing the words at the same time as seeing them, right? And having that read aloud. However, I will mention that our absolutely like average regular ed kids also really benefit from hearing words at the same time as reading them. When students aren't working at decoding and trying to like decipher that written language and then start to try to comprehend it, when they are able to hear it at the same time, they actually are going to have a better chance at understanding. Okay. So the read aloud feature is something that a lot of times teachers will share with students who they feel really need it, but it isn't necessarily a ubiquitous thing throughout the classroom. And I would suggest that whenever possible, if you're not assessing for, reading comprehension, if you're looking for, them to have ways to have instructions, possibly read to them and things like that, or just any text at all, having that read aloud feature is wonderful. So in Kami, whenever there's a text box, there's that option. There's also the option, and I'll show you this in a few minutes, to have, your documents read as well. So PDFs can be read if you're new to Kami, just so you know, you can bring in Google Docs, you can bring in Google slideshows, PowerPoints, Word files, you can even bring in an image file if you want. And we have a text recognition feature where if you take a picture of a page in a book, you can have that kind of that flat image, we can run text recognition where then the words can be read to students. Okay. All right. So what I'd love for you to do now is let's go down to the second page. Okay. And instead of answering the same question, what are some ways in which you currently differentiate instruction for students? What I would love to know is where you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 5 with Kami. Okay. Where are you? Are you a 1 where you're brand new to Kami and you saw it on the list of stuff today and you thought you'd come and learn some new things? Or is it something you use all the time? So maybe you're a 3 or a 4 or a 5. If you wouldn't mind using the text box tool and just putting a number on the page and letting me know kind of where where you are in the world of Kami, that'd be awesome. Oh, and I love that. Beginner, want to learn all the things. Awesome. Fantastic. A number 1. So I not only got a number there, but I also got text, which I love, absolutely love. While you guys are doing this, feel free as well when you're in the text box to use the voice typing. There's a voice typing feature. So when you're clicked inside your text box, what you'll notice is a little microphone tool all the way on the right. And if you click on it, you could say, I am an advanced Cami user. And of course, you know, whenever I say Cami, it wants to spell it with a C, but that's awesome. That's awesome. Never heard of it prior to this conference. Great to know. I've used it, but it's kind of like my relationship with my phone. I know there are so many features, but I only know about some of them. I love that. I love that analogy. I say this to my parents all the time when they get frustrated because their phones are so expensive. I'm like, well, right, because you guys have these computers in your pocket, but you only use them to make phone calls and send text messages. So I'm the same way with some of my technology for sure. So you guys, this is helpful to me because knowing that there are people who are new to it, I want to be sure to show you around Cami and make sure you understand like all the features that are here. Okay. So one of the things I'm going to do here is just check and see. I gave you guys just a couple of tools. Is anyone willing to type in the chat and tell me the tools that you have on the left-hand side of your screen? What do you see when you look at that toolbar, that kind of whole toolbar on the left, that whole side panel? You can type it right on the page, or if you want to put it into the Zoom chat, you could, or if you want to unmute and talk to me, you could do that as well. What do you notice about your tools? And maybe if you were looking at my screen share, you would see that my toolbar looks different from yours. Right. So thanks, Kara. You have select and you have text. Exactly, Sarah. So you have the text box tool pretty much. And I did that on purpose because I wanted you to see and know that as a teacher, I can limit the number of tools in the program at all times. So whether you're creating individual activities and like assignments and worksheets for kids, or whether you're doing something like what we're doing right now collaboratively, you can actually pick which tools. So that's a nice way to differentiate as well, because when you get started with students using a new program, it can be overwhelming for some of your kids to see this huge toolbar. So if you can, guys, come on back to the Zoom for a second. Okay, if you're looking at Cami on your page, on your screen right now, come on back and look at my screen, okay? Because I want to show you what my toolbar looks like. And that way we can think about how we can introduce this new program to kids incrementally, right? So on the left of my screen, there's a ton of stuff here. Okay. We have a drawing tool here, guys. We have a shapes tool. So I could go in and I can draw a shape. I can, use the eraser. I could go to add media and actually take a picture. So if I'm a student in a classroom and I have worked a math problem, I could take a picture and put it right on the page. Okay. Lots of options. However, can be overwhelming for some students as well, or it could be a distraction for some students. So if we're looking for ways to limit distractions for our students who are everyday students or our neurodiverse students, right? We can at all times choose what kids have. Let me show you how. So I'm going to take my mouse and go up to the top right. And I'm going to tell you that to share this activity with all of you, I went to this share button right here. And it looks, it's immediately to the left of the printer. It's right here. Okay. And you guys, I made you all editors. So it's just the typical Google sharing stuff. Anyone with a link can be an editor, and I'm going to hit Control Features. Control Features is going to be the thing that lets me pick what you all have. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to give you some markup tools, and I'll give you some comments in case anybody wants to do some commenting. And I'm going to give you the drawing tools and the shapes tool and the eraser. Okay. And I'm going to go down and hit OK. And now I'm going to encourage you to go back to your Cami, to the window or the tab that has Cami in it. Okay. And now you're going to see that there's a ton more options for you. And I want you to feel free to scroll. There's all these, pages that have more stuff on them. We're not going to worry about answering all the questions on there. There's even some blank pages all the way at the bottom. Scroll down, find yourself a spot and just draw something or play with something and just check out these new tools and see what they can do, right? And kind of play with them a little bit. Or you can draw right on the pages that we've been writing on. Okay, and while you do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and share all of the tools with you as the teacher here, so that way you can play with all of them. Feel free to ask any questions, guys. Okay. You can unmute, ask a question. You can put something in the chat. Katrina, my account manager or your account manager is here and she's answering questions in the chat as well. I also keep an eye on it and answer verbally when I see a question come in. Okay. So bonus points for anyone who's willing to take a selfie this morning. You might be thinking, no way, lady, you're crazy. But if you're feeling extroverted and you want to go to the add media tool and go to the camera tool, you could take a picture. Okay. And drop that onto one of the pages. Or if you would prefer, you could go to the add media tool and go to the G. The G is a Google image search. Okay, and that would be another way of being able to bring in an image into Kami. So feel free to play with that as well. You'll also notice if you're in the Add Media tool that there's a YouTube possibility. So you can bring in a YouTube video if you want. Yay for a selfie. Awesome. Thank you so much. Selfies are hard things to take sometimes, I think. Somebody found the graphic organizers. So when we think about differentiation in graphic organizers, allowing students to take some concepts and put them into a graphic organizer and, kind of a mind map of sorts, right? So like thinking about how we can categorize information or how we can make sense of complex concepts by putting them into those kind of graphic organizers. Oh, loving the black lab there. So going down to add media, guys, and choosing graphic organizers, you'll notice that there are lots of them and you can bring them in, you can resize them. Okay, so you can build out activities for your kids if you want to. And some teachers use Kami, you guys, as a whiteboarding tool. So if you have like an interactive whiteboard in your classroom, the way Kami works is that it doesn't need an app. So if you're using any kind of mobile device or, sometimes interactive whiteboards have their own software, things like that. If you have a web browser, you can get to Kami, okay? Or if you're just projecting even up on your screen or something like that from your computer, that can be a neat thing to do as well. Just be able to quickly and easily put up a Venn diagram and do some comparing and contrasting or something like that. So I just like to give everybody a chance for, this first part of our session to kind of touch and feel Kami and experience what it's like, okay? You may have run into, when you were in the drawing tool, you may have run into the ruler. Okay, you may see the protractor in there. We have two different protractors. One's the 180-degree one, and then there's one that's the full circle, the full 360. We have a compass on the way. So we have a lot of math teachers that use Kami for those kinds of activities and, exploring those kinds of concepts. So if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of transition us from looking at Kami as a collaborative tool and look more at how we can create instructions for students in like a individual assignment and things like that, ways that we can differentiate. So if you want to continue to explore in this collaborative environment, you can. I'm going to go ahead and close out of it, and I'm going to introduce you to the Kami dashboard. The Kami dashboard, you guys, is found by clicking on the Google Chrome extension. So the Google Chrome extension is a little purple circle with a K in it. If you're looking at my screen, which I would invite you and encourage you to come on back and look at my screen, because I'm just going to do a demo right now, you'll see that up here in the top right corner, I'm clicking. Okay. And now I'm at the dashboard. The dashboard is like the homepage of Kami. Okay. And it's where you can get started. So what I want you to know is that you can pull in files from your Google Drive, from your computer. You can also pull something in from OneDrive if you're also a Microsoft user. So your PDFs, of course, work in Kami, but so do your other files. So don't think in terms of it, everything has to be a PDF, because Kami will just convert it for you, okay? And what's nice is that you can bring in something that you currently have, and then you can add supports to it and add scaffolds for students in order to differentiate your instruction. So let's look at ways that we might do that. I'm going to click here on my computer. And when I do, I'm going to scroll down and go find an activity. So this activity is an elementary kind of activity, guys. If you are a middle school teacher or a high school teacher, please do me a favor and transform this in your mind to something that makes sense in your environment. If you notice, I'm pulling something in and it says, hey, do you want to convert it? And I do. So I'm going to use this purple button and say convert. Okay. And now here's my activity. So one of the first things that I do for differentiation for students is I help them realize and decipher what kind of, how to make their digital learning environment a little bit more comfortable. Okay. So if you think, I've been teaching since 1996. And so for 26, 27 years, I've been telling kids when they go home to do homework or they're in the classroom, they need to be working at a clean, comfortable learning environment, right? Like don't have a cluttered desk, don't have things that are going to distract you there. In the digital environment, you guys, we need to think along the same lines. We need to think about the size of our students' screens, for example. So when what opens up and is nice and big for you on a large screen as a teacher might be much smaller for our students. So I do things like teach them to use the Zoom tool up here in the top right. Okay. And if I zoom, now I can see like the whole page, because even that act of scrolling up and down can be frustrating for kids. Also, Kami has two environments. It has the environment of the page and it has the environment of the margin. The margin is magic because it's where we can put comments. And in Kami, our comments aren't just text, they're also multimedia. So you can have a voice comment and record your voice. You can have a video comment and talk to students with front-facing video on, or you can have a screen capture comment, which is actually going to be where you can record your screen like you would do with Screencastify or something, some other kind of screen recorder. And I'll show you all of that. But all of that lands here, you guys, in the margin. So I want kids to be able to see the margin. Okay. And if they're super zoomed in or if their screen is smaller, it might be worth teaching them to zoom. Okay. The other thing I want you to know is this toolbar on the left. You, of course, like I said, can determine what tools kids have, but also down here at the bottom, you're going to notice there's an option to move the toolbar from the left-hand side over to the right. So do you see this? Now it's over here on the right. And this can be just personal preference, and you can allow your students to choose that, okay, as a way to differentiate for them. Sometimes just even like little tweaks like this can really help. This little button here also makes the toolbar, it toggles the descriptions of the toolbar. So it makes it smaller. Some students will really like having extra white space here. It'll just make them feel more comfortable, but some will really need these words there as well as the icons. So be aware that that's an option for you as well. And then you guys, if you go up to the top right corner here, this is your initials in Kami, okay? And if I click on this, dark mode is right here. And so your students can turn this on and off as well as you can, okay? So this can be nice because that bright white and gray sometimes causes visual fatigue. So some people really enjoy having the dark mode on. So those are all just like little tweaks that you can do in Kami to be able to differentiate. Another thing that you can do in Kami to differentiate is allow students to voice type, okay? So just kind of reiterating what I was saying before, if we click on the text box tool, and then we want to answer this question, we want to call this an inclined plane, but typing it's going to take too long, or it's going to be frustrating, or I don't know how to spell the words, you can allow students to click and then use the voice typing. So the voice typing's all the way over here on the right, inclined plane. And it's going to go ahead and type those words for them. So that way they can, they can of course change fonts. You guys, another differentiation thing, we do have Open Dyslexic, okay? And we also have Lexend. Both of those are sans serif fonts. Sans serif fonts are fonts that don't have little curly cues. So let me zoom in on these words right here. Do you see how like the T has a curly Q here? And so does the A is like the typewriter A. That's a serif font, okay? And what that's going to be difficult for are your students that have some kind of visual disability or something like dyslexia, okay? They're going to do better with a font like Lexend or Open Dyslexic. It's just going to help them. With Open Dyslexic, the letters are actually grounded. So you'll notice that they're heavier on the bottom, and that helps students or people with dyslexia be able to decode and read those words more easily, okay? So sometimes little tweaks like that, allowing students to type in the font that makes the most sense for them, will be really helpful, okay? The other thing you can allow them to do is answer verbally or answer in a video instead of answering with text, okay? Or in addition to answering with text. So let me talk about these comments that I was referring to before. Over on the left-hand side of the toolbar, or at the toolbar, you're going to notice we have a voice comment, we have a video comment, and we have a screen capture comment. So the voice comment, all the comments actually, you just click somewhere on the page. Okay, so say I wanted to answer this question as a student, I could click inclined plane, and it puts this little dot right here. So this is a way for students to be able to answer a question, with their voice. Now that's a tool that you can allow students to use, and or you can do it also in terms of giving instructions. Okay, so what you could do as the teacher is click and say, all right, hey friends, listen, the word bank is at the bottom of the page. So that way you know how to spell the words. So what I want you to do is figure out which words from the word bank go into each of these boxes. So please create a text box and then label the parts, that kind of thing, or label the different things. Great question about voice typing with English. So you can actually, question came in about changing it to another language. Okay. Up here in settings, guys, if I go back up to that circle with the initials in it, and I go down to settings, what you're going to see is in here, you will see other language stuff. Let me find it. Here it is. Let me scroll a little bit. So I can change my speech to text language right here to a different language. And then that way the voice typing will work with another language. So Kami doesn't translate documents, but absolutely you can change the voice typing to be able to, hear that other language and type in it. So yeah, thanks for asking that question. It's a great one. The other thing, guys, to know is that when you as a teacher record, okay, and you record something where you're giving instructions, if you find yourself saying the same thing for each assignment, okay, maybe you're just like reminding, hey, don't forget to put your name on the page, or remember to use the text box tool, or whatever it is, you can also, you guys, save your recording. So right here, this is my little recording. If I hit play, all right, hey friends, listen, the word bank, this is what it looks like for it to play, okay? Right here is a save button. It looks like a little file box. This is add to annotation bank, okay? So what I can do is I can click on this and I can say, simple machines instructions, okay? And then I click on this right here where it says save to annotation bank. And what that does is it saves that little audio recording, that voice comment that you created, to a place that's hidden. Let me show you where it's at. Okay. So top left of my screen, there's a little rectangle right here. It toggles open a new sidebar, another sidebar where the annotation bank lives. So right here, guys, if I click on this, I can have all of these different either videos or voice comments or pictures that I've drawn, diagrams that I've drawn, or photos that I've found. Anything that you put on a Kami page as a teacher, you can store in there and bring in to use again and again. So if you are a social studies teacher or doing a social studies lesson, and you find like the perfect map or something like that, and you want to just save it in here, you can. So then anytime you want to reuse this stuff, you click on the little crosshair right here and you go like this, and it throws it over there, and then it's going to have your recording. So if you take the time to create, these audio recordings, these voice comments, or video or screen capture, be aware that you can use them again and again. Let me show you the other ones, okay? So comment, video. I'm going to just click over here. And now it's front-facing camera, okay? So what if I'm an elementary teacher and I go like this and I'm showing my base 10 blocks, okay? Or what if I'm standing at my board and I'm working a math problem? Or maybe I'm standing in front of a map and I'm talking about cardinal directions or the path that explorers took in in an upper level history class or something like that. When you record video, you can record for 20 minutes. And when you record audio, voice, it can be 5 minutes long. So typically you don't want to do something that long, because when we think about differentiating for students, we want to keep things short and sweet. Okay. I know that there's a metric that says, 1 minute for every year of their age or every year of their grade. I would say keep things under 3 minutes. If you think about our students and the ways that they use technology for entertainment, we know that kids like things short and sweet. We also know that the act of having to hit play is at the bottom of the page and then come down and hit play again. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, and hit play again, inclined play. That alone, having to hit play, is going to keep them engaged versus hitting play once and they sit back and listen to something that's 5 minutes long. Okay. So think about keeping things short and sweet. Also, potentially the most powerful of the comments is screen capture. So if you're thinking to yourself, my kids won't even know how to make a text box, that's reasonable, right? So maybe you click and now you say, hey, I want to record my entire window and I'm going to do this one right here. And then as soon as I hit share, I'm recording. So then I say, hey friends, so I want you to create text boxes. If you've forgotten how to create a text box, you go over to the left-hand side and you click, and then you click somewhere on the page and you can type inside that box. Now, if you need to take it and move it somewhere else, put your mouse back on it and you're going to see this little toolbar show up. You can then grab the crosshair and move it around to the different spots so that way you find the correct spot. So you guys, as you're recording with this screen recording tool, if you've chosen window, you can move to a different tab. Okay. You could go and say, hey, I want you to go and explore this website about Martin Luther King. And I want you to read especially the stuff that's in these first 2 blue boxes. And then I want you to come back to our Kami activity and answer the questions that are in the box, that are there based on the information that you read and things like that. So you could actually show students how to do their work in Kami or do their work even in other environments. Okay. All right. I feel like I've been talking for a long time and we've got about 13 minutes left. I want to pause for a second and ask you all to ask a question right now or to share something that's resonating with you, something that you're thinking about, something that you've learned that you're kind of excited about. Healthy disagreement is okay too. If there's something I've said that doesn't resonate with you and you want to share that idea, I am all about that as well. Anybody want to share anything in the chat or out loud?
I'll ask the question, Avra.
Yeah.
If I'm just really starting to adapt my lessons for differentiated learning, and you had to pick, that sort of the top 3 recommendations for tools or changes to make for maybe a gen ed teacher like myself that hasn't had a lot of experience with differentiating for all learners, what would be 3 easy tools to kind of get started with that?
That's a great question, Katrina. I might throw it back at you and see what you think would be the best answer. I think what I would do is ask teachers first to think about it in 2 different ways. Think about it in terms of students consuming information and then students creating. Okay, so consuming would be taking in new information. So what are some ways that you as a teacher can offer information to kids in a variety of ways? So as I look at this, if I'm a student, okay, if I didn't have any of these recordings, I would have my teacher standing in front of the class, holding up this worksheet saying, all right, here's what you're going to do, right? So I would be looking for ways as a teacher to offer that information in a variety of ways. So showing it to them, making it so that they can hear me, making it so that they have scaffolds over here on the side, potentially where maybe I've reiterated those instructions. Thinking in terms of video. So could there be a YouTube video that I could add to this page? Maybe teachers don't feel comfortable being the ones to record, right? You don't really want to record your face and all of that, but instead you want to go on and add a YouTube video, right? That's about simple machines because somebody else has already created the perfect video. That tool right there, like adding something from YouTube could be a fantastic way to allow teachers to add supports. Okay. So I would think in terms of what we can give our kids and how we can differentiate the different lessons. But then I would also think in terms of ways that you can allow students to show what they know. So what are some different ways? Can we allow them to use their voice and simply record an answer like this one? Or can we use like the voice typing in order to allow them to do a speech to text, that kind of thing? I would also
the comment tools are my favorite anyway, right? So whether it's me or, hearing back from my students, I think that's definitely my favorite tool anyway, because it allows, like you said, every learner to have that voice. And with the YouTube, that's a great point too. I would even mention there the new ability to trim those YouTube videos. I think one of the things that help me when it comes to a really long video is kind of getting to the point, right? So you can take a longer video and trim it down with Cammie's new feature here. Avra, I'm sure will demonstrate.
Yeah, I'm going to get there.
Perfect. Right. So she's just grabbing the YouTube link. She's taking it back into Cammie. That's going to strip this YouTube video of all of the ads and the comments and the playlist, those distractors that keep our students from learning. And once she loads that video, now she's got this slider here where we can sort of trim the video down to the most relevant parts. So don't be fearful of adding YouTube videos because again, we're removing the distractors and we're narrowing down the video to the most important parts for our students. So those are really great tips. Thanks, Avra.
Yeah, thank you, Katrina. I appreciate it. You guys, if you notice, I put that YouTube video right there and it kind of covered up half my worksheet, right? So that didn't really work. The other thing you can do is in a text comment. Okay, so you could go, so you can tell Katrina and I are kind of in love with the comments, right? Because it just adds all this additional, it's kind of like having a teacher by your side, right? If you choose the text comment, I can paste that same YouTube URL, okay? And when I do, it's going to put that YouTube video in the margin instead of it being right on the page, okay? So that can be nice because sometimes you just don't have room on your page to be able to, have a video. But also in terms of differentiation, you've got closed captions that you can turn on in here. Okay, so all of those YouTube settings, oops, sorry, I didn't mean to launch it, but all those YouTube settings can be accessed there, as well as, guys, any of these audio comments, voice comments, or the videos that I've created. When you see this little card, this little white rectangle, that now it's generating captions. So that's closed captions on the voice comments or on the video comments that you create. So closed captions, those subtitles can be a really nice way. Let me hit play and see if we can see them. You did an amazing job, Dyson. Okay, so let me wait for it for a second. Sometimes it just takes a minute. Let's see if it works.
Dissecting
now.
your
There we go.
frogs last week. So listen, you did an
So check it out right here. Amazing job dissecting your frogs last week, blah, blah, blah. So you can see, kids can see and hear at the same time. So what I want you to know is this, okay? I'm going to go back to my initial document that I shared with you, because if you came today kind of hoping that I was really going to talk more about differentiation and give you some examples of things in the classroom that you could do, and I think I've done that somewhat, but maybe you wanted a little bit more. I want you to know that in here, this is a whole slideshow of more thoughts, more ideas. What are things that we can do? So I'm going to say to you, like, hey, how do your kids take in information in the best way? And are you differentiating for your learners? Are you, and thinking about what you're assessing and all of that? So take a look through here as well, because this is going to give you more information. It's got a lot of just kind of thought things at first, you know, just like the why of it, thinking about ways to differentiate. But then there's also at the end, there's going to be a lot of like student examples. Okay. So in here, could you allow your students to draw and tell? Could you allow them to maybe work a math problem on paper and then take a picture of it and then come in and record their voice, right? And explain the concepts. If you had asked me to do this in middle school math, I wouldn't have been able to do it because I copied the answers from my best friend on the bus on the way to school because I struggled. So if the teacher when the teacher got around to me and said, hey, Avra, can you explain to me what you did here? My answer was often no. So that can be good. But even just something like, you know, figuring that out about your kids, right? But even something like taking any artifact of learning and allowing them to reflect on it, you know, or to just give that verbal explanation. You know, the students in your class who are so verbal and they will talk your ear off and they know all the answers. But when you ask them to put it in writing, you get these short, succinct answers because they're limited by what they can spell, and they're limited by sometimes just the physical act of typing or the conventions of spelling and grammar and things like that. So there's a lot of ideas in here for ways that you can use Kami, okay? Peer-to-peer feedback with audio comments, having students share, you know, a Kami file with one another and give each other some feedback, creating some voice or video exit tickets, allowing students to show what they know or choose how they explain it. They can type their answer or they could record in whatever way. So thinking about different ways for them to learn and talk to you about how they learn, you know, improving metacognition, asking kids to reflect on their learning is going to do that kind of stuff. So this slideshow has just oodles and oodles of information, and it's got, you know, more examples and some how-tos and things like that. So, so that's there for you as well. Okay. Cause I know we're down to 4 minutes. So the last thing I'm going to do, you guys, is show you one more tool. Okay. And I tried to do this in my first session. So for those of you that were there in my first session, you can attest to the fact that I was having technical difficulties, but I want to show you the split and merge tool. So the split and merge tool is going to allow you to take a big document and pull it apart into individual pages. So if you know, for example, that you have a big packet that's a big PDF, it's maybe 50 pages long, and certain kids are going to benefit from certain pages, okay? You can build out activities for different groups. Okay, so give it a second for it to load up. It's this large file. And what it did just now, guys, is it made a copy of it. Okay, and it's putting a copy of it right here. So if you have certain pages that this is going to be good for one of your groups that's, you know, struggling kids. So we're going to call this group 1. Okay, and then maybe you have a couple groups like that. So group 1 and group 2 are going to get this. Okay, you get the idea here. I'm going to go fast because I know I'm running out of time. But like, let's say then that we want a different group to have, you know, some different pages here. You can do that as well. So then this could be group 3. Okay, so basically you can take any file and make new files from the pages that are within it. You can also use it to merge files together. So I could go down here and go back to my Google Drive and pull in something else. So I could pull in a reading, or I could pull in a graphic organizer. Okay. And what happens then is that it puts these new files on their own row. So each of these rows is an individual file, guys, and you can go like this and drag and drop things around. Okay. And then you can take it and export it straight into Kami. And what I'm going to do that right now, even though this isn't going to make any sense because it's all these different things, but I want to end with our read aloud tool and our dictionary tool. Okay. So if I scroll down to like this Pearl Harbor reading right here, I want you to know that the dictionary tool is built in. They can click on it. Oh, it's in Spanish. Hold on. They can click on it. We do have US English, UK English, and Spanish. Okay. And that word can be defined. It can be read aloud.
A heavy warship of a type built cheap
Okay. So the definition can be read aloud. The word can be read aloud.
battleships.
And if you use read aloud here, entire sections
Much of the Pacific Fleet was rendered useless.
can be read aloud as well. So those features can be a really nice way to support your students, you know, when you think about differentiation. So maybe that's where I should have answered you, Katrina, because I think read aloud and dictionary tool, you know, having that built in, again, from my perspective, guys, it's about ways that kids take in information and then ways that they demonstrate their understanding to you and being flexible. I think differentiation is about being flexible and letting different kids do it in different ways because we all have different strengths. So I think that's where I would end. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I'm happy to answer them, but I'm sure that Katrina along the way has been, you know, giving you this link, but this link has lots more information about Kami, as well as information about how to contact us if you guys need any help. So thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I'm going to go double check my link for the next one and make sure that it's not screwy. And read aloud, yes, Rebecca, is available in many other languages. In fact, I can show you that. I can come into the read aloud tool. And there's a little US button right here because it's on US right now. And you can go in and put in a different language. And you can absolutely change it to a different language. And that way, then if the text is written in French, it can be read with better pronunciation and all of that. So you're welcome, Caitlin. And thank you, Kara and Sarah. I appreciate your feedback and all of that. You guys, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to stop my screen share and stop the recording and get ready for the next session. You guys have a great rest of your day.